Judicial Watch, who comes in with the heavy lifting to expose this conspiracy between the military and the Attorney General to target American citizens with criminal investigations. Milley was, we just talked about earlier in the program here, was the beneficiary, or could be the beneficiary, of a preemptive pardon by President Biden. Now, Milley is engaged in subversive behavior, and he should be court-martialed. There's no doubt about it. My colleague, Chris Farrell here, wrote a great piece on it, and I talked about it a little bit in an earlier weekly update. And let's just run that minute clip or so. He was calling China to reassure the Chinese communists, don't worry, if we plan to do anything, we're going to warn you. We're going to warn you. And my colleague, and you've probably seen him on our channel and on our media, Chris Farrell, he's a member of our board. He directs our investigative department. He's a former counterintelligence officer with the Army. You know, he thinks General Milley should be court-martialed. And I think he wrote a piece on this that's well worth sharing in large measure with you. Mark Milley, who, as I said, is chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Chris says should be subject to what is called an Article 32 hearing. And those of you who are veterans probably know very much what I'm talking about here. Yeah, and Chris in the op-ed compares him, Milley, to General Billy Mitchell. And if you've studied history, you may recall General Mitchell was a famous general. But he was court-martialed in 1925 for a relatively mild criticism of what he calls incompetency, criminal negligence, and almost treasonable administration of the national defense by the Navy and War Departments. And he complained about many of his comrades being sent to their death by official stupidity. He was court-martialed for that, and found guilty of conduct of a nature to bring discredit upon the military service. This is what Milley did, according to Chris's op-ed. Let's bring that op-ed. Did we pop it up on the screen? We'll put a link to it below. Milley called his communist Chinese military counterparts in October 2020 and January 2021. So Milley was a crazed anti-Trumper. That's clear. With unauthorized promises and assurances of advance warnings of military intentions and actions. And so this was in a book by Bob Woodward that reported this, as I described in the prior clip. Milley admitted to making the calls, and his spokesman stated he acted within his authority, but he didn't consult with anyone before making those calls. So it was clearly something he did on his own. And secondly, that he talked with Nancy Pelosi, who laid into Trump, said he's crazy. And Milley says, I agree with you on everything. I mean, that is so subversive. I mean, his calls to China were treasonous. And then he's attacking the commander-in-chief with the Speaker of the House. Some might call that like a coup-like activity, C-O-U-P, coup-like activity. And he probably leaked it to the book author, Bob Woodward. Milley's quoted as saying, F that sugar. I'll just fight them, referencing Trump. They want to court-martial me or put me in prison, have at it. I will fight from the inside. And as Chris points out, a general fighting from the inside against the president is the very definition of subversion. Milley must be held to account for his conduct and selectively leaked statements. His conduct goes far beyond the controversy of the Mitchell court-martial, the one earlier that, Mitchell was mad and complained about his colleagues. Milley's reported actions, if true, and there's no doubt they're true, are the most egregious examples of treasonous subversion by a commissioned officer of the United States since Major General Benedict Arnold. So I tell you, if Biden preemptively pardons Milley in a way that I think is unlawful, they really should challenge it with a court-martial. And there's more reason to court-martial him. And Judicial Watch just filed a lawsuit to investigate it. He was involved in a collusive attack on our freedoms with Merrick Garland in a meeting. Again, a meeting leaked to Bob Woodward, the author of the prior book in which these anti-Trump statements were leaked. So Woodward has a new book out, and in the book, the following is reported. He wrote that in early 2021, Attorney General Garland and Milley met for lunch at the Department of Justice. They discussed then former President Donald Trump, and Chairman Milley pressed the Attorney General to investigate domestic threats and far-right militia groups. Woodward described this meeting as highly unusual, if unprecedented. It's criminal, in my view, to have one of the most powerful military leaders in the country have a personal meeting with the Attorney General to encourage him to jail citizens of the United States and investigate them. All part of this attack on Donald Trump. And this, by the way, is the same man partly responsible because he ran the Pentagon for not having troops in place and military in place to protect the Capitol on January 6th. Remember, it was his team who denied and weren't there to protect the Capitol, despite Trump's wishes to the contrary. So we asked for records about this meeting. I guess we just asked about it last month, October. It wasn't. That was. I guess it's December now. We asked. We sent the FOIA on October 15th, and we got the proverbial hand to the face from the Justice Department. For the meetings, for the meeting or meetings where they talked about Trump, domestic violent extremism, and far-right militia movements. And, you know, all that is code for people who support Trump. General Milley and Garland's reported meeting about targeting President Trump and other American citizens further demonstrates the Biden administration was and is at odds with the foundational principles of our constitutional republic, and that the Justice Department would flout FOIA law to hide the details of this conspiracy meeting speaks volumes about its contempt for the rule of law. So there you have it. And they don't want us investigating this. I mean, the Justice Department, by the way, is charged with enforcing FOIA law, and they're now breaking it, literally breaking it. So every time we go to court for FOIA, it means a government agency has broken the law. And in this case, it's the Justice Department breaking the law to protect the American people, or protect themselves from being exposed to the American people as enemies of our republic. I mean, this should be subject to a criminal inquiry, in my view. So we know the Justice Department isn't going to do it, so it's Judicial Watch who comes in with the heavy lifting to expose this conspiracy between the military and the Attorney General to target American citizens with criminal investigations. I don't know. Sounds kind of important to me. Does it to you? Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like our video down below.